Alright, I'm going to start off this video by running a little experiment. Can you tell me any difference between these two phones? In fact, can you tell me which one's which? Which one's OPPO, which one's OnePlus? If you guessed that the right one was OPPO, then you're right. Yes, so ColorOS 16 and OxygenOS 16 are practically the same, which is why I was really curious to see if there are any differences, if at all, between the two operating systems. Now, considering these are the two best Android experiences that you can get in the market today, I really wanted to check out all the new features. Alright, so we'll do exactly that in this video, and let's find out together what's new in ColorOS 16 and what's different in ColorOS 16 compared to OxygenOS 16. Alright, if you're watching me for the first time, I'm Ashad. This is Trakin Tech English, your destination for detailed, incisive gadget reviews. Now, I want to start off by talking about what's new in ColorOS 16. And for those who have already watched my OxygenOS 16 video, will know that there is going to be certain overlap of features. Regardless, let's take a look. Starting with the fact that ColorOS 16 takes customization to a whole new level. So there's a new full screen always on display that looks gorgeous. It shows your wallpaper as the AOD, just like you have in One UI and iOS. Tap to wake and the transition to the lock screen feels buttery smooth. And the new frosted glass effect for the clock and widgets look pretty stunning actually. Now, obviously, a lot of the new operating systems are doing this whole lock screen effect after iOS introduced it, but still they're doing their own version of it, especially with ColorOS and OxygenOS, and I kind of like it. And now, unfortunately, there's a problem with both the operating systems is that you cannot long press the lock screen to actually make those customizations that you want. Having said that, if you do want to make the customizations, you have to open the settings app, go into home screen and lock screen, and there's a new layout now that kind of looks nice. Now, the lock screen preview sits on top, and swiping up reveals options for the wallpaper, the always on display, icons, and a whole lot more. You even get a reflection animation while scrolling through the themes, and it's like a nice touch, which we also saw in OxygenOS 16, by the way. Inside, there are 3 new clock styles, and you can now add up to 8 widgets. Now, widget positions adjust automatically based on the clock style itself. You can add depth effects, choose clock colors, and customize the shortcuts too. Now, when you're entering your PIN and you're typing the numbers, the liquid glass animation looks pretty good. Yeah, it does look like liquid glass as well. In fact, when you actually, use your fingerprint scanner to unlock the phone, there is a ripple effect that again looks very liquidy. Now, the same glow effect, which looks a little bit like liquid glass, is also there within the calculator app on both ColorOS 16 and OxygenOS 16. Flux Themes 2.0, of course, which we saw with OxygenOS, is pretty good with ColorOS as well, and it's largely similar. So you get animated themes, you get live clocks, and custom text finally. You can also add your lock screen message and choose different fonts. There's another feature shared with OxygenOS 16, and it's honestly a favorite. But one thing we noticed with the option to add customized text is that if you have a long, strand of text, then it doesn't show up fully, which is kind of not cool. It's not just the lock screen, the home screen also gets its fair share of love. Now, of course, my favorite aspect of the home screen customization is the fact that icons are now scalable. Just long press and resize the way you want. You can resize it in 3 different ways. You can also turn them into widgets with up to 3 shortcuts. It even works for certain third-party apps. In fact, even the folders are scalable now, so you can have them in different sizes. The new auto dark icons toggle ensures icons adapt to a dark mode, and the widget section is also redesigned now. It's cleaner and easier with a new clock and battery widget as well. By the way, you can also resize the widgets freely. All of this is very similar to OxygenOS 16, and it's all very fluid too. However, a step down from OS is the variety of home screen layout options. In Oxygen, you can actually get 4x6, 5x6, and 5x7 layouts. In ColorOS, you only get 4-column or 5-column layouts. Now, talking about the app drawer, it's far smoother now. The search bar moves to the bottom for easy reach, and you can switch between all the apps and categories. Categories are just like iOS, which basically means that the OS itself automatically sorts your apps into different folders. And now when you're sliding along the alphabet bar, it filters apps by the letter, which means that only the apps with that letter show up on screen. It's a neat overlay effect, and it kind of looks slick as well. Of course, there are some very interesting and useful changes with the quick settings as well. Again, something that I did highlight in OxygenOS 16. You can now reposition brightness and volume sliders, add up to 4 big tiles at the top, and even enable a multicolor option, giving each tile a unique tint. Now, remember how OnePlus calls it parallel animations and parallel animations 2.0? Well, OPPO calls it seamless animations. From opening apps to pulling down the quick panel, everything moves fluidly. Transitions from the always on display to lock screen to home screen are continuous and silky smooth. And yeah, of course, if you want to run internet's favorite speed test of opening and minimizing, multiple apps back to back, you can do that with ColorOS as well, without dropping any frames or causing any stutters. Finally, the settings app now looks cleaner with bold new sliders and an OPPO AI section grouping Mindspace, AI Writer, AI Translate, and AI Search. AI Writer now suggests captions inside social apps and it is integrated system-wide. And the Gemini integration with Mindspace, of course, makes it smarter, something that we've already highlighted with OxygenOS 16. Now, talking about upgrades to the Mindspace and PlusMind, it supports multiple languages and connects with Gemini now, like I said, and it lets you ask personalized questions as well. Now, talking about other AI features apart from the Mindspace and Gemini integration, and of course the AI Writer being integrated system-wide, you get the dock scanner now, which adds unblur, remove glare, and remove shadow AI-based tools. And the sound recorder does live transcriptions, AI summaries, clear voice for noise-free output. The Photos app also adds an AI relight option for better lighting and a revamped video editor that finally feels like, video editor that you would use by separate app, like for example, Instagram edits. And of course, just like OnePlus, you have OPPO Connect with OPPO as well, which means that you can tap to share between iPhones and OPPO phones now. That's not it. In the future, Apple Watch support and AirPods support, like deeper integration of AirPods support, is also coming to OPPO phones. In fact, it's also coming to OnePlus phones, but not right now. It's not available. Now let's talk about the differences between ColorOS 16 and OxygenOS 16. And it's not all good news, by the way, because firstly, like I mentioned in my Find X9 Pro video, hot apps and hot games are on by default. They're on your home screen. Now, even if you remove them from the home screen, but if you restart your phone, it comes back on the home screen. Now with the Find X9 Pro, which is a flagship phone, you do get a lot of pre-installed third-party apps. Of course, you can uninstall all of them and some of them are pretty useful too, but I'm guessing that with the Reno series of phones and the lower end of phones, there will be more bloatware apps added. That is something that OPPO doesn't shy away from. Now, another key difference is that OPPO has added its own native app for calendar, which is a nice extra to have, but Google Calendar also exists. So depending on what your mileage is, if you like OPPO Calendar, then you might get extra out of it. On that note, the icons of native apps are kind of different on OnePlus and OPPO. In fact, even the fonts are. Now, talking about the icons, the clock, the weather, recorder, photos, notes app, all of them have distinct icons. Now, if you ask me between ColorOS and OxygenOS, I actually prefer OxygenOS icons more than ColorOS's. Now, another thing that we wanted to highlight is that the to-do list, which is baked into the Notes app in OxygenOS, is actually baked into the Calendar app in ColorOS. Now, when you pull down the Notifications tab, there are subtle branding differences that you will notice. Not that it's important, but these are the differences that separate OPPO from OnePlus. Now, the clock has a red accent in the notification center of OxygenOS. The plus key on the OnePlus is called Snap key on OPPO phones. And the AI page in settings, like I said, says OPPO AI instead of OnePlus AI, obviously. And the software details and help and feedback pages look slightly different. When we're talking about visual changes, the battery indicator at the top right is also different. ColorOS fuses the percentage inside the icon, which is clearly inspired by iOS, whereas OxygenOS places it besides the icon. Readability wise, I prefer it to be besides the icon and not inside it. And finally, remember the OPPO Connect feature that I mentioned? Well, with OPPO, you actually do have the option for mirroring your notifications of your iPhone on an OPPO phone as well, which I think is pretty damn cool. Now let's talk about some features that are exclusive to ColorOS 16 and are not available on OxygenOS 16. Of course, with a phone like the Find X9 Pro, you get the camera button and it's called the quick button and it adds to your camera experience. Functionally, it's very similar to the iPhone in that you can actually press to take a photo, long press to take continuous shots, and swipe on it when in landscape mode to zoom into an image. But you do not have the option for switching between modes or changing the exposure level that you get with the iPhone. However, OPPO's implementation is leagues better. The latency is much better. Now, of course, with OPPO, you also do get carousel wallpapers, which are not there in OxygenOS. And I'm glad that it's not there on OxygenOS because it's a sneaky way of pushing ads to the users. You know it. By the way, you know the predictive back gesture that Android actually introduced? Well, ColorOS and OxygenOS have their own version of it with an added enhanced animation which looks very good. It's of course in beta, but it works really well. Now, if you love haptics, there's also an option to enable vibration feedback when you swipe back. It's niche, but it's kind of nice. And for users prone to motion sickness, there's motion cues. Yes, exactly like what iPhone does. Now, they're tiny dots that move with your phone's motion, triggering your brain into thinking that the screen is actually static. You also get a call to lock feature in ColorOS, letting you remotely lock your phone by placing a call if it's lost. Of course, we didn't try it out. It's not lost. We don't want to lock the phone. So these were all the similarities and differences between both the operating systems. But now for those who are wondering, when am I getting ColorOS on my phone, or ColorOS 16 to be specific, on my phone? Say for example, you have a Renault. Well, OPPO has already started rolling out ColorOS 16 beta for Find X8 and Find N5 series in October, followed by the Renault 14 lineup in November and the older flagships by early 2026. By the way, I'll have more details in the pinned comment, so go check that out over there. So yeah, ColorOS 16 has to be OPPO's most refined operating system yet, and you knew it too, primarily because OxygenOS 16 is OnePlus's most refined operating system yet. And for those who are unaware, which I'm guessing will be a smaller population of people watching our videos, is that ColorOS 16 is the actual code base on which OxygenOS 16 is also built. Both are equally good, both are equally fantastic, and what I like about these systems is that they've been refining it to a level where other brands are going to find it very tough to play catch up now, but they are actually also playing catch up. So software experience on Android phones is getting really good. Now if I have to tell you, ColorOS 16 and OxygenOS 16 are easily two of my favorite operating systems or UI skins on top of Android right now. And if I have to rate them, I'd probably rate OxygenOS at a 9.5 and ColorOS at 9, only because it adds a few extras like the third-party apps, hot games, which I am not a big fan of. Otherwise, both equally good, especially if you switch off all of those things. So what did you guys think of ColorOS 16? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know in the comments. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, keep tracking and stay safe.